Assembly of First Nations National Chief Cindy Woodhouse-Nepenak says this is not a happy day.
In Canada, the government's response to the national inquiry into missing and murdered women and girls represents a historic low point. It echoes a persistent pattern of failure.
The AFN has released a new report card that says only 2 of the 231 calls for justice have been completed. Many others have only seen limited progress, and some have not yet been started. Hilda Anderson-Piers of the National Family and Survivors Circle says this is unacceptable.
That there is a lack of political will to fully implement the 231 calls for justice, and it's a real, call out for international oversight, to ensure that there's accountability and the 231 calls for justice are implemented.
Not surprisingly, the NDP was taking the Liberals to task for this slow rate of progress during question period on Monday afternoon.
And the Liberals continue to ignore this ongoing genocide. Commissioners who led this inquiry are giving this government a failing grade. Rates of violence are up. Families are left looking for answers. 5 years, Mr. Speaker, and things are getting worse. Will the Liberals stop stalling and implement the calls for justice to save lives now?
Taking questions from reporters afterwards, Minister of Crown Indigenous Relations Gary Anasandagri insisted progress on the calls for justice is being made and took issue with the AFN's numbers.
I think there's a lot more than 2 that have been done. I mean, I will have to take issue with that particular number. I have a great deal of respect for the national chief. The work around the 231 calls for justice requires both the federal government, the provinces and territories, as well as civil society who have been working on this for many years. So of the 215 that directly deal with either sole jurisdiction of the federal government or shared jurisdiction, we have advanced roughly 160 of those calls to action.
Both Woodhouse-Nepenak and Anderson-Piers say one call for justice that is long overdue is 1.7, which calls for the appointment of an ombudsperson to oversee government progress on the calls for justice. In January 2023, the Liberals appointed Jennifer Moore-Rattray to provide recommendations on who should fill this role. But on Monday, 1.5 years later, Anasandagri was still unable to say when the ombudsperson position would be actually filled.
Thank you.
Fraser Needham, APTN National News, Ottawa.